Let's open up the new TVC figure of Princess Leia from A New Hope, VC316. Villa Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there. Thanks for visiting Villa Varykino. I am so excited. I have the brand new vintage collection figure of Princess Leia from A New Hope. I have been so excited about this figure ever since Hasbro revealed it on a live stream. As you can see, we have the beautiful Princess Leia from A New Hope, and this one comes with two different hoods, a really unique take. Because we have plastic goods here rather than soft goods, it's hard to do the sculpted hood. You generally have to decide one or the other, but this one includes two different hoods, so we've got different posing options. I'm really excited to get this one off the backing card and check out all of those details. I can't believe I found this one. We recently picked up the Stormtrooper and Darth Vader figures from this wave when they showed up very briefly at a local New Zealand online retailer, but the rest of the wave was gone by the time we were able to check out, so we didn't get Princess Leia. We also missed out on the R2-D2 and Luke Skywalker, but we knew that since these were in New Zealand in some capacity, we wanted to keep hunting, and today was the day we finally found them at our local toy store. So we were able to add the missing figures to our collection, like Princess Leia, R2-D2 and Luke Skywalker. So I am opening up the Princess Leia because you may know I am a big Princess Leia fan. I was so very keen to open this one up, but we will be opening up the R2-D2 and Luke Skywalker very soon as well. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'm going to take the figure off the backing card and check out all of the details, including this very exciting new hood sculpt. We're going to check out everything out, but first let's take one last look at the packaging. I think the backing card for this new Princess Leia figure is just absolutely beautiful. Obviously, we have that reference to the original Kenner action figure packaging from the 70s and 80s. For the Star Wars A New Hope, we just have the classic Star Wars logo forming in that double chrome racetrack print around the character picture here. Something that is interesting about this particular new backing card, and I have a slightly older one here for comparison to help illustrate the point, the artwork here of Luke and Leia, which appears on Star Wars A New Hope cards, is usually covered by the warning box here of text. You can see it covers the top of the lightsaber. On the most recent wave of A New Hope carded figures, you can see here on the Stormtrooper, again, it is the same. We can see that the warning box has been moved down to the bottom underneath the Kenner logo, so this artwork is not covered, and I think that is a really good upgrade there. I love the light blue color for Princess Leia behind the figure, and for the nameplate we have Princess Leia Organa. The blue feels very light side, which is perfect for her character. I love the artwork here of Carrie Fisher, of course, as Princess Leia in A New Hope. We can see the figure is posed very neutrally. I really like this one. We can see the figure clearly. She has two different blaster accessories. We have her Defender blaster, we have the E11 blaster, and we have her second hood, which she can fit over her hair in an up position, which I think is just absolutely brilliant. I think this is going to be one of those ones where collectors are going to watch multiples of her. I know I certainly do. Let's take a closer look at the back. And again, I'll use this one to illustrate the difference here. In the most recent wave of A New Hope figures from the vintage collection line, we have changed away from that vintage style black with the little rectangles of colored images of other figures from the assortment. This Boba Fett one is VC275, kind of recent, a little bit further back. Now with Princess Leia VC316, we now have this new bright colored backing style for the backing card. We have a picture of the backing card itself on the front and the figure posed. You can see that the image that they have used is of the action figure holding her Defender blaster with her hood up, like we see her at the start of A New Hope. We have the vintage collection logo here, a lot of copyright text, and we have a small blurb about Princess Leia herself. Princess Leia Organa was one of the greatest leaders of the Rebel Alliance, fearless on the battlefield and dedicated to ending the Empire's tyranny. So I think it's really quite fun the way that they have gone with that. Personally, I kind of like the dark black classic backing card style. I don't know if this is a permanent change from Hasbro, but it does certainly make it stand out if you have previous versions of this figure. It does make the backing card very different, especially when we note the warning box change here on the front. But enough about the backing card. It's time to get the action figure out of her plastic bubble so we can check out all of these amazing details. So now I have Princess Leia, her 2 blaster accessories, and her secondary hood out of the packaging. I cannot believe I finally have her. This is very exciting. So of course she is depicted in her classic senatorial white dress from A New Hope, as distinctly different to her ceremonial gown that she wears at the end of the film when she awards the medals to the rebel heroes. I absolutely love this iconic costume, and I think it is so ingenious the way that we now have these 2 hoods. I'm going to go through the figure as she came in the packaging first, then we'll take a look at the other details there. So I know that there is a little bit of discussion about whether this is the best way to depict Leia's dress, the soft goods or the sculpted plastic. I know that the plastic will restrict her leg poses. Specifically, I am thinking of perhaps her sort of kneeling down, doing the "Help me Obi-Wan Kenobi" speech with R2-D2, but generally speaking, I like it to look just a little bit more accurate rather than the articulation. I know some collectors really do want such a high level of articulation, especially from the TVC line, but sometimes I think, for me personally, a little bit of accuracy tends to win the day for me. And I just absolutely love the way they've got the plastic to sort of blouse over her belt there. It's kind of hidden underneath. We have got articulation at this point, so you can kind of bend and see it. Oh, the details of this. I think back to those ones from the Power of the Force 2, those ones with the sort of big cape that sat around her. Wow, this is such an improvement. And that face sculpt is so beautiful. We've really improved leaps and bounds with our Hasbro figures over the years. This is just absolutely stunning. It really is a pretty good likeness to Carrie Fisher. Oh, I think that's beautiful. It looks like this, I think the hair buns or the whole hair, I think the whole hair piece is completely separate. So we've got a very tidy hairline. I don't think there is, because I can just sort of see a little bit of a gap down there where I can just make out her kind of ears underneath her hair buns. So I feel like this brown hair is a separate piece. So we have very tidy definition between her face and her hair, which for me, face detail and face accuracy in terms of the painting is really important. This is so very tidy, and I absolutely love the detail on her face. I think it's absolutely beautiful. We've got some lovely hair sculpting here as well for her iconic space buns, her 2 buns. We can see the grain of the hair very clearly twisted into her iconic hairstyle, running through to the fact that it is sort of split down the back. Absolutely stunning. Oh, I love it. So exciting. So let's check out some of her articulation. So of course we've got shoulder joints here, a little bit stiff because of course this is a brand new figure out of the packaging. We can get her into a sort of classic T-pose there. We can rotate the arms around. Now I'm always curious to see how we're going to articulate when it comes to sort of draped cloth components. So we can see her elbow there. When her arms are down by her side, the shape of the sort of sculpted plastic fabric works very nicely. I like the way it drapes around the sort of wrist here, around the hands. Let's see how it looks like when we move her elbow up. A little bit stiff here. Oh, I get nervous when these things don't really want to budge in the brand new figures. I feel like I'm flexing that one. Okay, let's try the other side. Okay, oh, very tight. Okay, these joints make me a little bit nervous. I feel like I am bending this one more than I'm actually articulating it. I'm going to be very careful with that one. That one's a little bit stiff. You can see it rotates fine. I'm just not quite getting the hand up position there that I want, but we can see how that articulation looks on the elbow. I do like the way it looks when the fabric is all kind of draping. Obviously, if we're going to bend the elbows, we're not going to get that same smooth sculpting over the elbow, but the white is all fairly hidden in that sort of monotone color there. Very nice. She's got a sort of very nice hand sculpt, very fine hands. So I'm definitely keen to see how those are going to hold her blasters later on. Got some nice definition to the fingers, very small hands. It'll be interesting to see how hard it will be for her to hold the E11 blaster, because of course Leia's going to have smaller hands than will be on other characters that hold that, like the Stormtrooper. So let's have a look at that waist again. So can turn it a little bit to the side. It's a little bit stiff, but you can see her silver belt details there. A little bit in the back, of course, as well. I like the fact that we don't have anything really cutting through the middle, throwing off this beautiful fabric draping here. It really does give a good illusion of fabric. And again, here we've got a little bit of draping around at the shoulders. Of course, we've got her iconic sort of turtleneck to the dress there as well. And we can see all of the sort of gathering coming down around her hips. The dress, the lower part of her dress, it does have the sort of accurate split. The original costume does have a split up to about knee height on both sides, so I like that we have that here. Of course, this is probably more to do with flexibility rather than trying to be costume accurate. I really like the draping there in the back, a little bit softer with the sculpting detail, but I really do like those fine lines there at the front. Nice and white too. There are some whites feel a little bit too yellow. This feels like a nice white for Leia. So I'm going to very carefully kind of lift up the skirt to show the details underneath. We can see that she has her very accurate white boots with those striped details down the side going up to her knee, and the black soles there. I think that that's just fantastic that they are underneath. I can see looking up that we do have fully articulated legs. I can see the knee joints. If I can just lift that up a little bit, it's a little bit tucked in there. I can see, pretty sure I can see articulation at the knees, and of course we have them at the ankles there as well. Definitely going to be testing that. I'm not sure that I'm really going to get that much in the way of movement. I'm pretty sure this has a bit of sort of rubbery flex to it, but I don't really think we're going to get much. I can kind of move it back, but I'm going to potentially stress this seam a little bit. So you can kind of see, I can sort of tip her feet back a little bit, but that's probably more to do with the ankle, if I can sort of move that back. But the plastic is just going to slowly push her feet back into position. So yes, she is a little bit more of a statue, but I think I prefer having this sculpting like this so that she can stand upright rather than having some sort of awkward splits or anything like that to make her sort of pose on her knee. I definitely think of Leia as sort of standing upright and taking charge in A New Hope. So I am so very happy with this version. Hasbro's certainly given us a lot of different takes on transforming skirted figures. There is a lot more flexibility to this than, say, some of the other ones where you put them down and they're basically just a static figure that can move their arms. She at least has a little bit of flexibility, though I'm not sure we're really going to be testing the limits there of how much she can bend, particularly at the waist. She's not really going to be sitting down piloting anything anytime soon in this costume, but there we go. Of course, her head can turn around so we can get some nice little looking poses, a little bit of backwards and forwards as well there. The hood does not impact on her head movement with this one. And of course, it's time to take a closer look at the hood in the down sculpted version here as she was packaged. The draping on this is just absolutely amazing. Of course, she has a fairly iconic hood to match her iconic hairstyle. It is a huge amount of fabric used to drape over her very large hairstyle, so it drapes very low in the back. I think it's so close to the body. I really like the way it kind of falls against her back like that. Very nice and tidy there. And I'm really curious to see how easily this will come off. Okay, so we do have a small peg hole there in the back, and that just kind of snaps on there with a peg hole there. With that hood removed, I can also just flex the torso forward a little bit and show the back of the belt. There is actually 4 little snap details sculpted here on the back of the belt. This would reference the belt that appears on the classic Princess Leia costume that is often seen in Lucasfilm costume exhibitions. Some costumers believe that this belt is actually the one that Princess Leia wears in Empire Strikes Back that has been put together with a dress to sort of form a New Hope version. Some people believe there should be a silver panel here in the back as well. It is very hard to see in the film because of the way that the hood generally covers it and the way that the fabric hangs. But yes, this is accurate to some versions of Princess Leia out there in case you were wondering. So now, of course, let's get this second hood on. I'm really excited to see how this fits. We don't have any kind of pegs or attachment methods here. I think it is just going to slip over and fit in place. So let's have a go. Okay, I'm just going to sort of press it around her head there. Wow, that looks really cool. I like how it's kind of sitting back on her hair there, and it fits really quite snugly around at the shoulders. I really like how neatly this is fitting. While it's sitting there, it looks like it's all sculpted as one piece. That's really quite impressive. We can see it sort of sitting over the shoulders here in the back and draping down, and yes, it does cover that peg hole very nicely there in the back. I like the way that we've got the fabric sculpted there. Oh, I cannot believe this. This looks amazing. We've got 2 different versions of Leia in one. Very, very tempting for collectors. You can add this in different scenes with her hood up, with her hood down, 2 different blasters. Oh gosh, I'm going to need several versions of this Leia so that I can add her to all of my scenes. I'm still just blown away by this face sculpt. I think it's absolutely beautiful. So let's see how well she holds her small accessories. I'm going to start with her small little Defender blaster. This thing is so skinny. It's actually fairly rigid. It's not as bendy as perhaps I thought. I guess that holds its shape very well. And I am impressed with the high level of detail here. This doesn't look sort of gummy or sort of splodgy in terms of the plastics. We've got some very nice detail here. So I'm going to see how well she's going to hold it in her right hand. I'm hoping this will fit in because obviously this is scaled to Leia. Okay, and we can see that I can get her trigger finger there in pretty well. I think that looks pretty well scaled to her. Very nice. Of course, we're going to spend a lot of time posing her with all of her accessories and different hoods and everything like that. Oh, she looks straight out of the start of A New Hope. Absolutely wonderful there. Okay, so let's take that one out. Of course, Leia doesn't have a holster for her accessories, so we're going to have to find a safe way to store all of these pieces. Let's try the E11. Let's just take a closer look at this one. So it is plain black, but I like the fact that we have an accent of silver paint. We don't always see that on E11 accessories. And this one is a little bit flexible. You can see I can kind of bend it here, but my one is pretty straight. I like the details here. Pretty fine detail. Very nice. Just flat black, but I do like that we have that silver detail there. Okay, so let's see how well Leia is going to hold this one. Okay, wow, that just popped into her hand very nicely. Her finger for the trigger is a little bit more sort of tucked in. She's got very short fingers, so it's not going to sit in there quite as easily. Of course, I'm going to spend a little bit of time. Sometimes you just kind of need to nudge their little fingers in there to see if we can hold it. So I'm just going to see if we can get perhaps a little bit of a two-handed grip here with her other hand. This is going to be a little bit tricky. Okay, so I think I'll spend a little bit of time working with her hands. I do think she can do this, but it's just going to be a matter of getting her fingers out of the way because she's got very fine fingers. I'm just going to see if I can press that into that hand first. Okay, so not the best, but I'm definitely going to spend a bit of time posing with her weapons there. I will spend a bit of time because she kind of looks like she's holding it a little bit awkwardly. She does have very small hands, but her fingers are a little bit flexible, but it's going to be one of those things where, of course, we're going to spend a little time finessing those poses because I think she just looks absolutely amazing. I do like her with the Defender much better. I think it just fits Leia. I know she doesn't use it very much in the film, of course. When she is captured, she's not going to have her weapon with her anymore, but I really like the way that that fits in her hands. Just fantastic there. So I'm so happy that I found her, and I hope that other collectors that are hoping to add her to their collection are going to be able to find her as well. I actually have over here the A New Hope Stormtrooper that was also released in this most recent vintage collection wave, just for a little bit of figure reference in terms of her height. I think she's pretty well scaled to the Stormtrooper. Of course, she is going to be shorter than a Stormtrooper. And we can see that her white is not quite the same as a white Stormtrooper. It really does look like a slightly softer white, like it is fabric. It's not the sort of harsher, glossier white that you would expect of a solid object like Stormtrooper armor. I think she's just absolutely fantastic. I'm obviously going to spend a little bit of time posing with her. This is just sort of my first impressions, having a bit of fun, checking out all of her details, and I'm so very happy. As soon as I saw this, obviously I am a Princess Leia fan, as soon as I saw this revealed, I'm like, yep, I need it. I'm going to need more than one. So excited that she is finally here, and she is as good as I was hoping. I know some people will perhaps not be as fond of the fact that she is very hard to articulate in the lower half of the body because of the plastic sculpting, but that is always going to be a headache for the fabric sort of components, the long robes that we have for all sorts of characters. I think back to some of those Queen Amidala figures. They were basically just a static statue because those heavy sleeves, the heavy robes meant that you couldn't really move them in any way. They're just a solid object. The vintage collection is known for their articulation, and I do give props to Hasbro for putting articulated legs under this skirt. Technically, if you wanted to customize her, cut the skirt off, there are articulated legs underneath. It's very hard to show you, but I can kind of see up under the skirt, and I like the fact that she has accurate boots on underneath. I love this hood. I think it looks absolutely amazing, the way that they've managed to get a separate piece fitting so nice and close to the sculpting. It looks like this is how the figure came off the backing card, and we've got the other standard hood if we want to put this one on as well. I just absolutely love that. Just fantastic. What a great way to include this figure. It does look just a tiny bit odd to have that second hood packaged right next to the figure on a very classic backing card, but that might be an issue for people that want to keep this one mint on card. It does just sort of look like a bit of a weight piece of fabric there in the box, but I think for what this figure is and the accuracy, it is well worth just having that sort of slightly quirky extra accessory there on the packaging, because I think this figure looks absolutely beautiful. So excited. I hope it's not too long before everyone else can get a hold of this one. We thought it might be quite a bit of a longer wait for us here in New Zealand. Sometimes we miss out on waves that show up in the US entirely. Sometimes they show up here months later. Very excited that this one is here already. So I had a lot of fun unboxing this one. I think she looks absolutely beautiful, and she stands up very nicely. Always a plus. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars Vintage Collection action figure and had a lot of fun. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. Of course, I have those Luke and R2-D2 new TVC figures coming up very soon, so I hope you'll join me again for those. May the Force be with you. If you're a TVC fan, I recently opened up the Stormtrooper A New Hope figure. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as our whole vintage collection playlist. This is the way.